I need to tell you something I usually try to hide. I decided to change everything again, not a small tweak, not one habit. I mean the full dramatic reboot. New routine, new rules, new mindset, new life. The kind of decision you make at 1:17 a.m. while staring at your ceiling like it personally offended you. The kind where you feel this sharp, clean surge of hope and you think, okay, this time is real. And for a few hours, it feels real. It feels like you finally found the secret door out of your own mess. Then morning comes, your eyes open, your body feels heavy, your phone is right there. Your brain whispers, we can start later. And that beautiful overnight version of you, the new you, starts fading like a dream you can't hold on to once you grab your coffee. If you've been here, you know the cycle. The cycle is the whole point. You decide, you promise, you push hard, then you decide again, and you don't just feel tired. You feel embarrassed because the worst part isn't that you failed. The worst part is that you saw yourself failing again, like watching the same episode on repeat, and you still couldn't stop it. So if you've been living in this loop, big decisions, strong starts, quiet collapses, this video is for you. Not because I'm going to yell discipline at you, but because there's a reason you keep restarting your life like a video game. And it's not because you're weak. It's because your brain is trying to save you in the most exhausting way possible. Here's what it looked like for me. I had what I call a reset night. One of those nights where everything that I've been ignoring shows up at once. Unfinished work, messy room, missed gym days, the way my time disappears into scrolling, the weird tension in my chest when I think about the future. I'm sitting there and I can't even enjoy rest because rest feels like I'm falling behind. So I do what I always do when I can't tolerate the present. I create a fantasy future. I grab a notebook. I write rules like I'm writing a new religion. I plan the kind of day a robot monk would struggle to maintain. And while I'm writing it, my brain feels relief, real relief, like a pressure valve opened. Because planning feels like progress. Deciding feels like control. It's the cleanest feeling in the world when your life feels messy. Then I wake up and my body is like, absolutely not. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way. My shoulders feel heavy. My eyes feel dull. My brain feels foggy. And the plan that looked inspiring at night looks violent in the morning. Like it's demanding a version of me that doesn't exist when I'm tired. So I compromise, just a little. I check my phone for a second. I delay the hard part. I skip the cold shower. I tell myself I'll start after breakfast, then after one more video, then after the day feels right. And by noon, the plan is dead. Not because I'm evil, because my nervous system read the plan as a threat. That's the part we need to talk about. Because the loop isn't actually, I decide, I fail. The loop is, I feel pain, I escape into a reset, then I crash into reality. The reset is not the problem. The reset is the symptom. Here's the mechanism, in simple terms. Your brain hates two feelings more than anything, helplessness and shame. Helplessness is when you feel like your life is drifting and you can't grab the wheel. Shame is when you feel like you should be doing better and you can't explain why you're not. So when those feelings build up, your brain looks for an emergency exit. Something that instantly makes you feel powerful again. Something that instantly makes you feel like you're not a failure, you're a work in progress with a plan. That emergency exit is the grand decision, the I'm changing everything moment, because it does something unbelievably addictive. It gives you relief without requiring you to do the work yet. It's like emotional painkillers. You don't have to face the messy middle. You just have to declare the new chapter. And the declaration itself temporarily quiets your shame. It temporarily restores control. That's why it feels so good. That's why you keep doing it. Not because you love chaos, because your brain found a way to self-medicate with hope, but then reality shows up with a bill. Because your nervous system can't live in declarations. It lives in energy, capacity, safety, tiny steps, boring repetition. And when you try to go from overwhelmed to perfect overnight, your brain hears danger. Why danger? Because perfection raises the stakes, and high stakes trigger threat responses. Think of your brain like a security guard. A security guard doesn't care about your dreams. A security guard cares about risk, and when you announce, tomorrow I become a new person, your security guard hears, Tomorrow we will be judged. Tomorrow we might fail. So the guard does what it's supposed to do. It slows you down. It distracts you. It pushes you toward comfort. It whispers, not now. It doesn't do this because it hates you. It does this because it's trying to prevent emotional injury. And then you slip. And the slip doesn't just break the plan, it triggers shame. Because now it feels personal. See? I can't even stick to one day. And shame is gasoline for the next reset. That's the engine of the cycle. Now let's do the forensic part, the part that actually changes things. Because most people think their problem is inconsistency, but inconsistency is a surface behavior. Underneath it, there are a few specific points where control gets stolen. The first point is the moment you confuse intensity with change. You think change requires a dramatic overhaul, so you build a plan that is intense enough to feel like change. And intensity is exciting. Intensity gives you identity. I'm the kind of person who transforms, but intensity isn't sustainable. It's a spike, and your brain knows spikes end, so it braces. And when your system braces, it looks like procrastination. It looks like tiredness. It looks like losing motivation. The second point is the hidden all or nothing rule. It's the rule you don't say out loud, but you live by. If I can't do it perfectly, it doesn't count. So you start strong. Then one small slip happens. You oversleep. You eat something you didn't plan. You miss a workout. You waste an hour. And instead of adjusting, you mentally throw the day away. You tell yourself you'll restart tomorrow because tomorrow feels clean again. Tomorrow doesn't have the stain. That's not laziness. That's purity addiction. You're addicted to clean starts because you can't tolerate messy progress. The third point is that your resets are usually punishments disguised as plans. Look closely at your new routine. Does it sound like kindness? Or does it sound like a strict parent finally losing patience? A lot of new me plans are basically, I will become disciplined by suffering. No phone, no fun, no softness, no wiggle room, just control. And your nervous system hears that and thinks, we're going to war. When you go to war with yourself, part of you will always rebel. Not because you're broken, because rebellion is the only way your system protects you from self-punishment. So how do you break the loop? Not by making a better promise, by changing what your promises are for. Right now, your reset is trying to fix shame. That's why it's dramatic. Shame demands drama. What you need is a system that removes shame from the process. And the way you remove shame is by making change small enough that your brain doesn't treat it like a life or death test. I'll tell you what finally helped me. Not a magical morning routine, not a perfect mindset, a different approach to decisions. I stopped deciding to change everything. I started deciding to build evidence because your brain doesn't trust speeches, it trusts receipts. So I made one new rule. I don't get to declare a new identity until I've done the smallest version of it for 7 days. Not perfectly, just consistently. Here's how that looks in real life. Instead of, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. forever, I picked a wake-up range and a single anchor. I told myself, I will get out of bed within 5 minutes of waking, and I will stand by the window for 30 seconds. That was it. No motivational speech, no full routine, just one action that proves I can move. Instead of, I'm going to the gym 5 times a week, I said, I will put on gym clothes once a day. If I did that, the day counted. Sometimes I then worked out, sometimes I didn't. But the point was not the workout. The point was breaking the freeze and building reliability with myself. Instead of no phone, I picked one tiny boundary. No phone in bed for the first 10 minutes after I wake up. 10 minutes, not forever. And I didn't use that time to be productive. I used it to re-enter my body, sit up, drink water, breathe, let my nervous system wake up, without instant dopamine. These steps sound almost stupid. And that's exactly why they work, because they're not asking your brain to become perfect. They're asking your brain to become consistent. And consistency is what ends the need for dramatic resets. Now let's make it a practical protocol you can actually run without turning this into a motivational sermon. First, you need to stop using change as punishment. That means your next plan can't be a prison. It has to be a ramp. A ramp is something you can walk up even when you're tired. A prison is something you can only survive on your best day. If your plan only works when you feel amazing, it's not a plan. It's a fantasy. So build a ramp, one daily action that takes less than 2 minutes and is impossible to fail dramatically. Second, you need to replace clean starts with messy continuity. That means you practice continuing after a slip. This is the skill that most people never train. They train starting. They don't train continuing. So your new rule is simple. When you slip, your next action must be the smallest possible return, not a full restart tomorrow. If you miss the gym, you do 10 push-ups at home. If you wasted the morning, you do 5 minutes of the task. If you ate poorly, you drink water and take a short walk. You don't need redemption, you need continuity, because the real win isn't a perfect day. The real win is breaking the identity of I'm someone who always resets. Third, you need to lower the emotional stakes of your habit. Most people attach their self-worth to their routine. So every slip becomes a verdict. I'm failing as a person. You have to cut that connection. So you speak to yourself differently, not in a cheesy way, in a factual way. You treat habits like reps. I missed a rep, next rep, no trial, no identity crisis, just training. Fourth, you need to choose one area only. The change everything brain loves multiple domains. That's how you overload your system and guarantee collapse. So pick the one that gives the biggest return for your energy, usually sleep timing, phone boundaries, or a tiny daily movement habit. Fifth, you need a weekly reset that is not a dramatic identity shift. Here's what I mean. A healthy reset is maintenance. It's like cleaning your room. You don't declare a new life. You just restore order. So once a week, you do a short review. What worked? What didn't? What's the smallest adjustment? Not new me, just next week's version. That is how adults actually change, not by burning their life down every 3 days. Now, I want to be honest about something, because this is the line that hits people hardest. A lot of the time, the reason you keep deciding to change everything is because you're trying to escape the feeling that your current life doesn't match who you think you should be. And that gap hurts. So you keep jumping to an imagined version of yourself where the gap disappears. But the gap only closes through boring consistency. There's no teleport. And once you accept that, you stop needing dramatic decisions because you stop treating the present as something to run from. You start treating it as a place you can build from. Here's what success looks like after a week if you do this properly. You won't become a new person. That's not the goal. You'll notice something quieter. You'll stop craving the emotional high of I'm changing everything because you'll already have evidence that you're moving. And when you're moving, shame calms down. When shame calms down, your brain stops demanding dramatic rescues. You'll also start trusting yourself again, not because you have perfect discipline, but because you proved you can return after slipping. That's the real confidence, not I never fail. It's I don't disappear when I fail. So let's end with a new lens. The problem isn't that you decide too much. The problem is that you use decisions to feel better instead of using small actions to become better. Decisions are cheap relief. Actions are expensive change. But actions build something decisions never can. Proof. And once you have proof, you don't need to change everything again. You just keep going. If this felt like it was about you, you're not alone. This cycle is way more common than people admit because everyone is ashamed of restarting. But restarting isn't the enemy. Restarting is just your brain trying to escape pain fast. The real upgrade is learning how to continue. Like the video, if you want more episodes from Finn's perspective, real patterns, no fake motivation, and fixes that actually work in real life. And if you've got a topic you want Finn to confess next, drop it in the comments.